the sad thing is, guys, and I've been living 43 years, the sad thing is it's a fact that unfortunately we can't trust everything that we hear on the news. We can't trust everything that we see the government do. Like I said, we're not anti-government. We're not trying to take the government down and things of that nature. But let's be honest. If you've been living long enough, we've seen all type of scandals. We've seen all types of things happen. And unfortunately, a lot of these people cannot be trusted. I went through a situation myself a couple months back. And it's funny because I was hearing a lot about, what was happening in the nursing homes. And some of that was even on the news, but you heard people saying what was happening in the nursing homes, and because they couldn't get in there to see their loved ones, they wasn't sure how they were doing. And then, come to find out a lot of people died in these nursing homes and things of that nature. And you hear those things and it's like, oh, well, maybe they're tripping, whatever have you. Well, I have a friend of mine, she's older, and I help her with some of her health decisions now because she no longer is able to kind of make certain health decisions on her own because she's going through in her mind. So before that all started, she asked, could I be there for her to do that, just in case what is going on with her now, had happened. So, she's in a nursing home. I talk to the people all the time. They let me know what's going on with her, go visit her, things of that nature. Some days she's good, she remembers certain things, and then some days she don't. One thing I thank God for, she always remembers who I am. She's never forgotten who I am, and she's always praising the Lord because she's been saved for, I don't know how many years. So she's a believer, she's saved, so the things that she needs to remember by the grace of God, she does remember. But she had gotten sick. She had gotten the virus, and I remember them messaging me and calling me, telling me that she had got the virus. And I was nervous because I hadn't talked to her or seen her. And because of some of the things that I had been hearing, I'm like, man, I hope that, and this is just me being transparent. I'm like, man, I hope that she isn't dead and they're just acting like she's alive. And then 2 weeks from now, they're going to be like, well, she's gone. So I was like, listen, we need to do an iPad video so I can see her. And sure enough, they did it. And she was super sick. She could barely talk. Her throat was sore. She was really going through. So, maybe a couple days after that, I start getting these calls. And the calls are from nurse practitioners saying, listen, we need to talk about her getting hospice care. And I'm like, hospice care? I'm like, pretty much you saying it's over. It's like, oh, no, that doesn't necessarily mean. I'm like, listen, I know what hospice is. Whether you mean it or you don't mean it, hospice is hospice. And they're telling me that once she gets in the care of this hospice physician or nurse or whatever it was, that there were certain medicines that they would no longer give her. So I'm like, lady, this sounds like what it is, what hospice is. It sounds like, listen, we just going to make her comfortable and let her pass on. Now, she's 75 years old, so she's definitely at the age where they were saying, listen, once you get it at this age, you're very high risk of dying and all these things. And I'm like, listen, first of all, you just let me know she got the virus. We haven't even gave an opportunity to see what's going to happen. First of all, on my end and her end, we want to see what God has to say about this. We want to see how God is going to work this out. I don't expect them to necessarily understand, but I'm like, hold on. Let's take our time with this. Now, they're calling me. Now it's turning into every day. Like they're really, like literally calling me, trying to encourage me to put her in hospice care and to do this evaluation. And I'm like, listen, you guys need to relax. And it got to the point to where I had to ignore the calls for the next couple of days because I'm like, first of all, this is somebody else's mom and grandmother. Even though I'm in charge of making these decisions for her, she has a child. She has, grandchildren and all of this. And I'm like, my mother is still living. If somebody had to take care of my mom or make decisions for my mom, I wouldn't want them to make such a rash decision and not pray about it. So I'm like, listen, I need time to pray and all of these things. So they still was calling. I just ignored the call. And I ended up reaching out to one of the nurses. Now, mind you, at this time, and this is how I knew it was nothing but God. And I'm going to close the podcast after this, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. This is how I knew it was nothing but God that did this. There was nobody allowed to come in the nursing home at this time. I called a lady and I'm like, listen, I need to visit her. And, I don't want to put her name out there. I'm like, I need to visit her. I want to see her. Like, is there any way that I can visit? And she was like, you know what? Yeah, you can. And I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. I'm like, well, but praise God. And guess what? I was a little nervous because they're in this nursing home. I mean, there's tons of people that are sick, all types of things. But, I had to put on all the necessary equipment, the face shield. My wife gave me a face shield. She a nurse, So long story short, I put all these things on. And it was nerve wracking going up there to see her because I'm like, man, God, have your way. And so many things. This is what was so crazy, guys. So many things happened to me on the way up there that I started thinking like, well, maybe the Lord don't want me to go. You know what I mean? Because I'm talking about, I left my N95 mask. At home, I had to turn around because she's like an hour away. I had to turn around and go get that. I got caught in traffic. Just mad crazy things happened. And then all of a sudden, I just got this peace. I said, you know what? I'm going. I'm going to keep heading up there. So I get up there. I get in the room. And first thing I do is just start praying. And I'm like, Lord, have your way. I'm praying. And she, as I'm praying, and before I even tell that, when I walked into the room, there was a guy working on her TV. And the reason why he was working on the TV is because the nurse said that she wanted him to fix the TV to put her gospel music on for her because, they have the music channels and, they wanted to put, the TV on for her and so she can hear her gospel all day. So here this guy is setting up her TV to get, the TV working so she can hear her gospel music all day. Here I come in to visit her, to see her and pray with her. So now we're praying and I'm praying. And as I'm praying, she's weak. She's laying in the bed. She starts lifting her arm up and then it's falling down. And it reminded me of when I used to watch wrestling. And I don't know if you guys remember Hulk Hogan, every time he would get down and, they would lift his arm up and then it'd drop and then they'll lift it up and it'd drop. And like on that third one, he'll start shaking and, end up winning the bout or whatever have you, the old wrestling. But that's what she was doing. Like her arm would go up and it would fall. And it was like she was fighting. It was like the Lord was moving. I'm crying. And I just felt like the presence of God, like God was moving. It was just so amazing, just like what was happening. And I didn't realize also that a lady was on the other side of the room behind a curtain, another COVID patient. I didn't even know anybody was there. And then all of a sudden she just starts coughing out loud like, So I'm like, Lord, move. Like I'm emotional. I'm crying. I'm like, touch her too. Like I'm fired up in there. And long story short, she came out of it. She's healed today, doing fine in the nursing home. Great spirits. Even the last couple of times I went and seen her, we have to do the visits outside, talking good. I mean, even, talking better than she was before. I asked about the lady that was behind the curtain. I heard she came up out of it. I never even seen who she was, but God moved. But I said all that to say this, that these people tried to get me or this individual or whoever, I don't know if somebody was telling her to call, I don't know what was going on, but they tried to get me to put her in hospice care. And who knows if I would have did that, would she have been here today? Probably not, because the treatment that she was getting and the things that they were doing for her, they was going to stop doing. But I mean, we know that God can override that. We know that she could have been in that hospice care and God did what he did. But just the fact that they tried to encourage me to do that, it just reminded me of some of the things I was hearing. And I said all that to say that, sometimes when you hear people telling different stories, we can't always think that everybody is lying. Some people are going to the extreme and making up stories to sensationalize things and get everybody all fired up. But sometimes when people are telling a story about some experiences they had, they're not necessarily always lying. But by the grace of God, I did not listen to them. I follow my spirit. I follow God's spirit and his leading, first to let them know, listen, let me pray about it. And then when they wouldn't stop ignoring them and then talking to the nurse and going to pray with her and just watching God just totally move and have his way and heal her and heal the other lady, that was such a blessing. But once again, I said that to say that, unfortunately, we don't know how many people were asked to put their loved ones in different places on hospice that were at that age. I mean, because in the facility where she is, 37 people died. So I always sit in the back of my mind and wonder, out of those 37, was those situations that they put me in, were their family members put in that situation and just kind of trusted them as being nurses or whoever and just went by their word. And that's why I'm saying through all of this, guys, we just have to trust in the Lord. We just have to lean on him and just let him have his way. If it was his will for her to pass away, it wasn't going to be in no hospice. It was just going to be his will, and we were going to go out praying and fighting. That's fine. If it's God's will, there's nothing that can go against that. If God's will is for us to go through certain things and for them to happen a certain way, that's just what it is, guys. God has our best interests at heart. But at the end of the day, we can't put our trust in every individual out here. We have to truly be led by God, because I'm telling you, everybody does not have our best interests at heart.